Hello everyone, this is Mr. Brain Junkie here, and today we're going to be talking about a science fiction thriller film called Predestination. Be ready for some spoilers ahead. We are introduced to our main character with no name. We'll call him the Agent for now. He arrives in the factory to disarm a bomb. He hears someone moving behind him and takes out his gun. They get into a gunfight which wastes precious time needed to disarm the bomb. He tries to contain the explosion, but it burns his face and disfigures him horrendously. Another man walks towards him and hands him his suitcase, which he then uses to vanish. He goes through facial reconstruction while his agency gives him the Medal of Honor, informing him that the next mission will be his last. He contemplates about the Fizzle Bomber, a terrorist who he never was able to apprehend. In March 1975, he would destroy a city and kills tens and thousands of people. The doctor unveils his new face, which he comments that even his own mother would not recognize. His vocal cords have also been shortened, changing his voice. After he heals completely, he gets ready for his final mission. He appears in the bar and sees another man sit down. He pours the man a drink as the bartender. The man's name is John, and he's a writer of women's confession stories, which our main character seems to read. The agent questions how he can write these stories from a woman's angle, to which John replies that he would be shocked if he knew why. The agent bets John a full bottle of alcohol if he's impressed with John's story, to which John happily agrees. John starts the story by saying when he was a little girl, which shocks the agent, but he tells John to continue. When John was a baby, he was found on the front steps of an orphanage. They named her Jane. When Jane was growing up, she felt different from the other girls. She was fascinated by sex and how the bodies all work together. She always got into fights, but she's always won. She was much stronger than other girls and sometimes even the boys. She was very intelligent as well and aced all her exams. One day when she was all grown up, she met Mr. Robertson, who enlisted her as a candidate for the space program. She excelled in the exams and surpassed all the girls over there. The only problem was she didn't get along with anyone, which resulted in a fight with another girl and got her expelled. She took on odd jobs and studying, where she met another man, who she fell in love with. He treated her with a kindness that no one has before, but one day, while sitting in the park, he tells her to wait for him and never came back. She became pregnant with the man's child and gives birth to a baby girl, but the doctor tells her a news that she couldn't believe. Apparently, she has two sets of functioning sexual organs, male and female. Her female organs were damaged in the birthing process and the doctors had to remove it. They reconstructed her male organs and she must now live on as a man. She names her baby Jane as she knows that she must change her own name now that she's a man. Soon after, the baby was kidnapped and they never found her whereabouts. She stopped looking at herself in the mirror as she becomes someone she doesn't recognize anymore. John tells the agent that this is the reason why he can write his stories from a woman's perspective, because he used to be one. The agent looks at him seriously and asks John what would he do if he found the man that left him, to which John replies he would kill him in a heartbeat. The agent then reveals that he actually knows who John is, and he also knows where that man is as well. He tells John that he can bring John to that man and kill him without getting caught. He also reveals that he's working with Mr. Robertson and that he wants John to work for him. He convinces John to follow him into the basement. He shows John a violin suitcase, but in reality it's a device that creates a temporal wake. In other words, a time machine. The agent sets its destination to 1963 and walks towards John while he's still in disbelief. The two grabs onto the device and vanishes. They appear again in a different location while John is hyperventilating from the stress of time travel. He explains that he works for the Temporal Bureau, whose objective is to prevent crimes from happening. They suspect that the man John wants to kill is in fact the Fizzle Bomber, and this would be a test for whether if John can become a temporal agent. They need to keep their time disruption small and cannot travel more than 53 years from 0 point, which is when time traveling was invented. Before the agent leaves, John asks him if this job is lonely, which the agent agrees. But he tells John that more than anything, he will have a purpose. John goes to the school where Jane will meet the man for the first time. He bumps into her by accident, and they begin a conversation. Soon, he realizes what he said to Jane was exactly what the man he met before had said to him, therefore making himself that man. The agent watches both of them from afar as he completes his mission. He contemplates about his last chance of stopping the Fizzle Bomber and disobeying the Time Bureau. He sets the destination for 1970 and arrives minutes before he was disfigured by the explosion. He finds the bomber setting up the bomb in the factory and tries to apprehend him. They fight in dim lights where the agent was unable to identify the bomber. They're evenly matched, but the bomber gets an upper hand after a long battle and knocks the agent unconscious. He gets up and finds his prior self burning and disfigured. The agent hands his prior self the time machine while the man looks up and teleports away. The agent goes to 1964 and meets Mr. Robertson, where he tells him that he has made an illegal jump to try and arrest the Fizzle Bomber, but failed regardless. He tells Robertson that he will complete his final mission and accept the punishment by the Time Bureau. The agent goes on to kidnap baby Jane from the hospital and brings her to the orphanage in 1945. He removes her tags so that no one will know where she came from. Meanwhile, John and Jane fell in love just like it was supposed to happen. They sit in the car while sharing a kiss. The agent calls the orphanage to let them know of Jane's arrival, then teleports back to 1963, but 3 months after dropping off John in the past. He waits for John in the park as John turns around and sees him. John tells Jane to wait for him to come back and leaves. John points a gun at the agent and is angry that he tricked him into falling in love with Jane. The agent explains that some things are inevitable and reveals who he really is to John. He takes John to the Time Bureau where he'll work with Robertson as a new temporal agent. Robertson doesn't punish the agent for his infraction, but instead congratulates him for his retirement. Robertson talks about how important the Fizzle Bomber is to the Time Bureau, even though he's a terrorist. The agent says that it almost sounds like Robertson admires the criminal that he's supposed to capture. Robertson gives an envelope of the new details for the Fizzle Bomber, and the agent teleports to his last destination, a little while before the Fizzle Bomber's largest explosion, which kills tens of thousands. The agent arrives and tries to decommission his time machine, but surprisingly, an error code shows up. He tries to live in retirement, even buying a typewriter, and begins writing about confession stories like he used to. However, the Fizzle Bomber keeps on returning to his mind while he looks through all the new leads of the criminal. He is able to eventually track down the bomber and decides to pay him a last visit. He arrives at the laundry place and points a gun at the terrorist. The bomber turns around and turns out to be an older version of the agent himself. The bomber justifies his killing by stating how many lives he saved because he killed the people that would have otherwise caused more deaths. He tries to convince the agent that he did the right thing, while the agent swears that he will never become the bomber. The agent's older self says that Robertson was the one who set up their paradox, and he was the one who created the bomber on purpose. The bomber tells him that the only way for the agent to not become him is if he doesn't kill his older self, but that also means more people will die as a result. The agent chooses to kill the bomber, but this also means that he will eventually become the terrorist, since his philosophy of killing one to save more lives is identical to the bomber's. Meanwhile, John prepares for his first mission, and we find out what the agent told him that night in the park. It turns out the agent is none other than the future version of John, who eventually becomes the Fizzle Bomber. So what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my videos, please press like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time.